up, guys? Y'all fucking rule.
Give it up for the ghosts.
Shout out to all of our real human beings on this side of the room. What up, guys?
Shout out to our biggest fan, the cat, too. I just want to point out that the cat is our biggest fan.
There's a sweet cat like this banana.
Yeah. You guys can try as you may, but you'll never be that cat. You know what I mean? What's up, Ice and Fire Con? How are you guys? How you feeling today? That's adequate. I kind of like it that way. You know, I like it.
Yeah, you guys want to skip this and like get some soda or something?
You guys want to get lunch and stuff? No, I'm just kidding. That could take an hour.
Lunch could take an hour. We could fill a whole hour.
No, we'll talk about A Song of Ice and Fire or something instead. Do you think that's okay? Yeah.
That's fun.
Good. Haley says yes. I feel good about it. Welcome to Choose Your Own Reading Order. I'm Chloe. You might know me from Girls Gone Canon or see me running around with my head cut off here at the con. Offer me water if you do. But I have a POV by POV A Song of Ice and Fire podcast. We follow one character at a time in a reading order that we chose before we started the podcast. So we chose it. We are not changing it, though there have been a couple arguments internally. We're not changing this order, though, and we are seeing it out. So we'll talk more about that today.
I'm Hanna, and I'm on Game of Thrones, and Zach can talk about our podcast.
That was very old part, yeah.
I'm Zach from Game of Thrones. I have blue fire coloring on my fingernails. It looks really weird. I just noticed. Sorry. My podcast, we just decided to do the reading order like this. So we heard about the fact that you could combine books 4 and 5, and I guess I thought it was a good idea to be like, instead of just doing it in a way that someone else did it, we should like do something that is specific to us that we like really vibe with. We're gonna do it for however long it takes to talk about a podcast or talk about 2 books put together on a podcast, and so that's what we did. Different from what y'all have done, and I was just on your podcast 2 weeks ago, and I got to like finally talk to you about the fact that I thought choosing a specific POV, like in a book series that's so dense, that has so many different characters, but like not so many that like you don't go back to some, but that there's like a handful that you constantly do go back to. So there is like a book's worth of each person if you follow that person's story throughout the series. It's like I said on your show a couple weeks ago. I don't know how this hadn't been done before, but there hadn't been a show that was just specifically going through A Song of Ice and Fire, POV by POV. I think it's so fascinating.
We were inspired by these chumps from Game of Thrones that I know, and yeah, we were big Game of Thrones fans ourselves, and you know, I think there are definitely some podcasts that do a little bit of a POV at a time, but maybe just not in the same way. But it is kind of like a really fun way to bring out different parallels and themes, which is something you guys do with some of your location and chronological stuff, or Feast with Dragons.
Yeah.
I like that. A lot of good parallels and stuff like that.
Yeah, a lot of parallels, especially when you put 2 people together that will just force a parallel, like Jaime and Cersei. So that's like by design, but also, but the thing about George is like, he's like trying to say the same thing throughout the whole story. So it's like, there's a through line in there, and if you organize this stuff in a way that sort of beats the slickness that he's tried to do in those 2 books specifically, then it sticks out a little bit more obviously if you talk about it like so. If you read it with like a magnifying glass and then force you and your friends to talk about it for over an hour, then stuff starts to come out of it. You're like, oh wait, I do see something in there. What are you gonna say? Okay. But yeah, that's basically it. I don't have the experience of reading the series like all Davos in a row. That's gotta be weird. I was just thinking about that recently.
That's a fun ride.
Right, exactly. I was thinking like, what other books series are like this where we could do that too?
Yeah, and I guess, okay, I remember what I was gonna say,
Bingo.
sorry. But I guess, often when like people ask me, like I talk about the podcast with like randos, like people who aren't in A Song of Ice and Fire, people who haven't read the series, they're always confused by this idea that you would take the author's book and you would chop it up and kind of like read it in your own way. So I wanted to know from your guys' perspective, why, like creatively, the motivation behind choosing your own reading order and making it your own. And if like ethically, that's a strange thing to do. I feel like we kind of take it for granted because we all kind of do it in a song like the fire. But kind of how you feel about that. I don't know if it's like what George R. Martin would necessarily say about kind of taking, but we've all taken quite the liberty with the story. So
To be fair, so did his editors.
yeah,
I mean,
so-
that's the big meta, right? Feast and Dance were supposed to be together. And that's what makes the Feast with Dragons reading order for you guys so interesting is that it was supposed to be together initially. And you have some POVs like Cersei and Dany, for example, would have had chapters parallel to each other if it had been one book, kind of highlighting and contrasting some of those bits of rules, some of those differences between them, and probably some of the similarities. And when he separated them, because he had to, because it got a little too thick, 2 C's, that binding was just, you can't fit that crap. It was time to divide, and so separating it's really interesting. I think that the rules went out the window when he was like, yes, my paychecks are signed, so I have to cut the books apart. I don't think that's unethical technically to read it in a different way. I read A Ball of Beasts. I don't know if you guys have ever read the Ball of Beasts version. There's a good PDF floating around somewhere on the internet, not that anyone would ever have things like that floating around. That it combines some of those POVs. Some of them are similar order to what you guys have done, but some are very different too. And that one has a little bit of chronological and thematic going on. And I read that after I read Feast and Dance for the first time. Then I read Ball of Beasts. I was like, yo. I like Ball of Beasts because I used to hate dance. I'm changed. I'm evolved. Put your daggers down. Jesus, what is this? I'm evolved. People do change sometimes, but yeah, I don't know. I used to think dance was like boring, and until I read it together and thematically understood what he was going for across both. Now I'm like, oh, I get it now.
I had a similar experience, but I thought Feast was
Get off this band.
Yeah. But I think that it is a tough ask, I think also for a casual reader to kind of draw all of those. There's 2 really hefty books. And I feel like it's a tough ask to come to the reader, like a casual reader, and say, understand, like, no, I mean, no, yeah, make your own reading order. No, but like, thematically, I feel like it is a very enlightening experience, and it was for me too. I kind of have a whole new view on Feast after.
Because Feast has there's that great run of Feast chapters, right, where it's like the brainy Cersei run, right? You got those 3 to 4 Cersei, Jaime, Brienne chapters all in a row, and you can kind of pull a lot of those cool parallels out of this is where Jaime Lannister's heart truly died. It's right here. He loves Brienne, but no, his dick loves Cersei. What do I do? It's so confusing. Feast for Crows is great for that, right? It brings out a lot of that tension. But then you have all of Dorne covered in and the Iron Islands, which can feel confusing in a lot.
Right.
I personally love it. Rereading Asha's chapters in a row, especially because there's so few, so it's kind of a quick run. I recommend the heck out of that. That is fun. I would love to do only Ironborn chapters and just pepper them together.
That would be so cool.
That'd be so great, just to really understand and grab some of those thematics, and it would help understand, the old way and what they're coming from and kind of what their forebears have placed upon them,
Right.
children-wise.
But also how George wrote it,
Yeah.
if he's not writing this chronologically, the way that the books are put together. So if you were able to put all of that together, which we very easily can, imagine once we get all of it, you see the Greyjoys through the very end, all the way through book 7. That would be its own tome, its own it's the Greyjoy experience. They're gonna sell that at, I'm trying to think of a bookstore, not FYE, not Hastings. They're gonna sell that at Borders. There we go. Barnes and Noble's coming back. I saw an article about it. It really is. People are saying that Barnes and Noble's cool again because Amazon sucks so bad that the place we used to hate, not so bad now.
Capitalism always turns it around.
Right. Well,
Time's a
it's
wheel.
we don't actually stand against the things we don't like. We just say we don't like it, and then someone else is like, you can like it again. I'm like, okay, cool, we like it again. So Barnes and Noble's back in the game, and imagine there one day after George is long gone, and I'm trying to think of people who finish the books for him that I can say and people won't
Stop
get
it.
Brandon
Stop it.
There we go,
Yeah.
Brandon Sanderson.
I'm quitting this panel.
Whenever we're gonna literally be able to walk into the store and see the Greyjoy reading order, the Brienne reading order. That's so neat.
Well, have you guys thought about, obviously the books aren't done yet, so imagine, in X amount
What are you
of time.
talking about? I got my copies yesterday.
Have you thought about redoing it once you have everything?
So there is a great internal discussion happening between Eliana, the co-host slash love of my life, slash my husband, we really should, but you know,
keep going.
I digress. Eliana and I, we have had a good amount of discussion about how we're going to handle if a book ever gets published, right? Because then it's like, well, do we just do, here's the TWAP chapters, here's the Dream of Spring chapters for each POV, and it's a quick short run again, but then it's like now we're bouncing back and forth like a pinball, and you know what the good news is? We don't need to worry about that right now, I don't think. I'm just gonna, you know what? I'm just gonna find out in 6 weeks when he releases TWAP, right? Yes.
We're announcing it today.
Look under your chairs. It's there. Just kidding.
Does the crowd think that he's gonna Bay won't say this and eliminate it to us at one time, or do you guys think that it's gonna be like, you know, like?
The worst thing that could ever happen to all of us.
We're gonna make
Yeah,
it
that's
TWAP,
true.
and that's all I'm gonna say out loud.
Quick, what do you think? Quick release or 6 months with like billboards and stuff?
Billboards.
Depends on how good Hot D does.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Hot D, that's gonna really, I mean, how that goes, and if any of the other greenlit spin-offs, right, if the Dunk and Egg show ends up good or ruining our lives, it's just hard. It's like I've been hurt before. I trusted a long time ago, you know, and I've been very hurt. So I don't know if I'm ready to trust yet. I'll believe it when I see it all. You know, it seems more positive this time around. It could be good. It's a finished story. You know, there's a Targaryen queen. She dies at the end. What could go wrong with this story? This is going to be a fun 4 to 5 seasons, isn't it, you guys? We're going to have fun. I don't know. I think that's the big thing. How well that does. I think he probably does feel motivated, right, to write more when his stuff is more positively happening and being received and is out in the world. I think that's just art. Like, we all feel good when our art is being received in different ways and loved, etc. So I hope that helps.
So say we get that 6-month lead up. What do you do?
Oh, I take off a week of PTO. I remove Twitter from my phone. I silence all my Discord stuff and mute it, and make like a secret channel where everyone can talk in it or whatever, and only go there. And yeah, I keep my phone off most of the time, and I just read it, I guess, and read it and read it and read it and read it and scream and weep and whatever.
Well, do you like try to get through every POV chapter that you haven't done yet on the podcast?
No,
In like
we do
this
organic.
vein?
We're just gonna read it. We're just gonna, yeah, right? What if we just catch up with T-Bow within 2 weeks and we're like, let's record it all? I don't know. I just know that I would take a week of PTO immediately. Like, I would immediately, the second, because, so in the past, it's been a 3-month announcement. That's kind of the big general rule, right? It takes about 3 months from announcement to actual publish, just based on the last 5 books. So, any 3 months now, when he announces it, I think that's a good lead time, right? 3 months should be enough to take PTO. Get it at midnight, get home with it. Tell my husband, please go in the other room and read over there. I don't want to hear your gasps if you read faster than I do. That's a problem. How am I going to do that, right? Yeah, and we get deathly howls. There's a great, everybody, I feel like that was the last ripple effect. Last time I bought a book at midnight, that was a ripple effect.
Yeah, no,
like,
that was
where all my friends were like, did you get to this page yet?
Yeah. I know.
Oh my God, could you imagine?
Yeah.
We did that.
Yeah, we did.
And I'm like, Zach, holy shit, page 345, Ashara's alive, I fucking told you. I'm just kidding, that'll be in A Dream of Spring. So it will happen.
We get to combine those 2 books now.
Oh.
All right, we're gonna be doing. We are stuck. You're not going anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, you guys have to make a new reading order, right, Ron? So what are you going to call that? Is it going to be like
Oh.
The Winds of Spring?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Wait, a dream.
You're welcome.
A Dream of Winter.
Yeah,
A Dream of
Dream of
Winter.
Winter's also good.
Winter's Dream. Ooh.
Winter's Bone? No.
No. Well, maybe. There's going to be some winter boning, I hope.
Winter's Bone. What is that?
You'll find out.
Okay, I forgot what that was anyway. What?
When we were naming the reading order, though, we did spend a lot of time like saying out loud over and over again, like all the different options.
There's a bunch of different names. Yeah. This one sounded the most. We back to the topic at hand. Thank you. This one sounded the most like.
Swaggy.
Just actually, it was the worst sounding one. It means it's like the most normal sounding one. So I was like, that's probably the easiest. Is that what
Most
swaggy
acceptable.
means? When you say swaggy, is that what it means? Okay.
How did you guys, so like, what was your process when you chose Feast of Dragons order? I know obviously you had a couple input from others, and what was your process though? Did you did a spreadsheet or something?
You should tell the Jamie thing. You
It's
told me
so
last night.
embarrassing.
Okay.
Tell me anyway. Okay, she has to tell us now.
Oh, yes.
They're all here. They heard you. You have to tell us.
Process after she
I mean,
tells me
the process was to like get people who are much smarter than us to help
Yeah.
bring it together. Because I mean, like, there's so many people in this community who are way better versed in A Song of Ice and Fire than me. Probably not than you. But so we wanted to like bring together other people who were really well versed in the community. And at the point where we started talking about the reading order, I only read A Song of Ice and Fire like twice, like 1.5 times. I didn't know nothing about A Song of Ice and
I
Fire.
didn't know nothing.
I didn't know nothing.
I had no idea.
I didn't know anything. I just joined the podcast like weeks before.
On our first episode, we had to share a mic because that's all I had with me. So it was like that energy. You were like, I like the podcast too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I don't want to tell it anyway.
Tell that's a great little anecdote. I'll tell
So
it.
Jeff, what's Jeff's username?
Brendan B. Fish.
Brendan B. Fish.
Wolves, play Wolves by Kanye West. Just
Jeff was helping us put together the reading order, and I was tasked with like creating a spreadsheet with all the chapters on it. And I was like typing it and not thinking about it. I was like pretty new to Song of Ice and Fire, so I misspelled Jamie's name. Because you know his name is like spelled differently in Song of Ice and Fire. Anyway.
He was like, who made this?
Yeah, we like. I was like, I didn't say anything. Nobody said anything, so I don't know.
I love
I didn't
it.
even remember it happening. It really burned in your brain.
It was really
She just told me
embarrassing
about that
to
last
me.
night. I
Yeah.
forgot completely until last night.
Because I was like new and I really cared about this and I wanted to do like a really good job, but I was not that versed in the Song of Ice and Fire, which I don't know is how like.
We're spelling it. It's supposed to just spelling, I think. Remembering
It's
spelling.
not even a real thing.
Like you
They're all
knew
made up.
Jamie.
I know, but that's such a
You're here.
stupid
Spelling is
mistake.
fake.
I would never.
I would
Spelling's
never.
impressive.
That's an embarrassing mistake. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's a newbie thing to do.
That's like, it was a newbie thing, but you learned.
I
You
learned.
learned where that eye goes, right?
And so much about
I can
this.
tell you where it is right now.
I knew
I
that.
have to write it down.
Yeah. Anyway, so that was like really embarrassing. I was really new to the Song of Ice and Fire, but this reading order has like taught me a lot about the series. So
Oh,
anyway,
for
you
sure.
can talk more about why you brought the people you brought in because
Okay.
you were more part of that than I was.
Okay.
So the process was, we picked out our own reading order. And we invited Jeff, Brendan B. Fish, Emmett's podcasting partner, on the group. I called him up and I was like, do you want to help me do this? And he was like, yeah. I was walking my dog, and so I called him and we talked about it, and we talked about other stuff, and then we were gonna do it. And then I knew another person that was a big fan, like a pretty obsessive fan. And he was someone that like, he did not want to be a part of stuff outside of just like being a fan of stuff. He didn't want to be involved in things, and I really liked that vibe. I thought that he was like sort of like really too obsessed with the series, and so I was like, you should help do this because you really like this, and like you feel
Good outlet.
exactly, not only a good outlet. Selfishly, it was like you have like good insight. You care about this. Isn't something that you're going to just willy-nilly decide on. Like this has emotional resonance with you, like where things go and why. And Hanna helped, and then
Misspelling things. Yeah.
misspelling things. And so we just all put together our own, and then we had a couple calls where we decided to compare and contrast, and then like we all agree on each step of the way.
Yeah.
So it was like a combination of all of it together.
Well, and we
basically.
like sped read. At least I did. Like we were like for like a week, like speed reading through all of our orders, like
Mhm.
trying to make sure that it felt like it flowed correctly.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
it wasn't too strange. Because there's a couple like sticking points that made like specific decisions that we made that I think were different. That we like really read through multiple times to make sure
Yeah.
we
Yeah, what
weren't.
were the big
Why?
argument ones? Like, what were the ones where like, no, I think this should go here. No, I think this should. What
Let's
ones?
look at this. Do you guys know what we're talking about, by the way, this reading order?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, cool. I just wanted to make sure. I was just like, we're saying this thing a whole lot that I'm not sure people even know what it is.
Something I really love about the Feast with Dragons reading order, though, especially because we just did the Sam chapter with you. We're on Sam right now, and actually, kind of cute. We had Hanna for John, and we had Zach for Sam. So there's some thematic resonance right there. Kind of adorable, right? It worked out well.
Go for John.
Yeah, good for John. It's really exciting to see where you put the Sam stuff, but like your Sam reaching the Citadel chapters at the very end,
Yeah.
which makes it like it's like you had the whole travelogue throughout the whole time. And Feast with Sam, You get to the end of that, and now he's there where all the magic is, and first of all, it feels like shit's about to go down. My one argument would be, I would have put it a little closer to some of the Bran Dance with Dragons chapters. It was a little farther out. I talked about this in this week's episode, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I talked about it. Take a listen on the way home. Yeah, no, name drop. Name drop. But I did say, I would have put maybe Bran 2 a little closer even to Sam 5 with some of the glass candle stuff going on.
Dude, you're so right.
No, you messed up. I want you to go back, and I think, no, I'm just kidding.
No, we should. I think we should update it. I think we should. Some people have to reread the whole goddamn thing. What?
We're so much smarter now.
Speak for yourself, man.
I would love to see
That's
what
a
you
good
changed.
idea, though.
You know, I would love to see if you did one for fun, what you changed.
I think we should change it. Brand 3, even Brand 3 is really far back in the stack.
Yeah, I was
for
surprised
sure.
when I looked through the other day, so I was kind of thinking about it, and I was like, is it like close to this? And nothing. I was surprised.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's that like, it's sort of the same thing that the show did.
Mhm.
It's where like, a lot of stuff is going on and Bran is in a stage of like, what would you call it? Like, we don't know, we're just guessing that he's like
I would
having
just say Dance with Dragons is like being removed from an entire season of a show.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's like a training montage. And there's stuff happening, I can't remember exactly in Brand's chapter, like that we chose, that we found a reason. Does anybody remember anything that's like relative to news or weather or anything that's not on the panel to tell us what happened with that in Brand's last 2 chapters?
There was some snow, I think.
Yeah, so it was cold up there.
I hear.
I can't
Yeah,
remember.
because we had both like timeline themes and weather themes.
Sure, yeah.
and vibe themes.
Yeah, but
Vibes.
I'm wondering what specifically inside of the tree was something that we decided needed to be put that far back in the reading order.
So Bran 2 was after Bran 3 and Soiled Knight, and you had it right before Tyrion 4. So there you go. You had some of the Tyrion stuff of the magic going on in the East and some of the craziness he's experiencing. And you had it by Davos 2 and Dany 3 too, which also has a little bit going on. I can see that moving
It's been
in.
such a long time since we were in that.
Dude, it has
It's
been.
been like multiple years.
You were saying Sam 5, right? Or
Yeah,
that's
Sam
the-
5, down by like John's death, Rip,
So,
and
so
the
we go Kingbreaker, okay,
Yeah.
Dragon Tamer, and then we do John's final chapter.
Mhm.
So John just gets stabbed, and we're
Right.
like, what's gonna happen?
No one knows.
What's gonna happen? Like, is this just, imagine being, you guys were all there back in the last book that you could read in the show, hadn't, given us an answer to it yet. You're like, is George R. R. Martin really gonna take this character away from us in this way? That seems so perfect to something that he would actually do. And then so in this reading order right after that, we have Sam like basically Arya riding a Bravos going into Old Town and like having that opening conversation with Morrow. That kind of thing, like, I don't know. It's like earlier in this reading order where they both have the same chapter from a different perspective. That being back to back as well, like little moments like that, like John dying and Sam like basically having this reawakening, like basically a new life, like a renewal of life and perspective, and learning about Morrow and the glass candles and like how you can be a sciencey person and like have like shit all over the floor that you like smoke and like everyone's hanging out in weird ways, like.
You're going to poor Quentin phrase, it's Rick from Rick and Morty.
Oh, nice.
That is, Marwin is Rick from Rick and Morty. Absolutely.
Those things I feel like that's been my favorite part about this reading order so far, is like being able to take stuff that was so good on its own and to make like it sort of like feel like a season finale, like in a TV show. Well, yeah, that's see, putting Danny 10 at the end was different than putting an epilogue at the end, because when we put an epilogue at the end, it's kind of like, to me, it's like a soft entrance. Like a prologue sometimes can be a soft entrance into a story, unless that there's a White Walker death, or when Barrymere, I remember before I read the series, one of my friends told me there's a chapter where the guy who the chapter's about dies at the end of the chapter. He's like, this author is crazy. So like, a prologue being able to do that is cool, but sometimes they're a little soft, and I feel like even though we have the knives at the end of Dance, like, I feel like it's still not as epic as Dany shooting herself to death and then Dothraki's.
But no, to your point, I love that you guys did that and didn't do the epilogue at the end, because you did epilogue and you did Queen's Hand and then you did Dany 10. And like thematically, obviously the epilogue is telling you the chaos that's to come and some of the madness in King's Landing especially that's going to go down, right? Because you have the Dornish coming, you have Aegon's entrance being cleared, his path is going to be very clear to take the capital, and then you have the Dornish coming to the small council and Cersei is going to have a really fun time with that. I'm sure that they're going to be like, oh, we let the women rule in Dorne, Cersei. You know that, right? And then, just get one over her head on that one. But having Daenerys had sweeps over all those chapters. I mean, that is the chapter. When you read Dance, you're like, yo, and then she's surrounded, you're like, yo! You're like, she's shitting, and now there's Dothraki everywhere. Oh my god. But that's it also is a great end stone, because then you look at the Dany Game of Thrones end chapter, it's a great book end on either of those. It's great parallels, and it does feel more important than the Stabby Varys chapter, in my opinion.
And I love what they do in that, or what George does in that epilogue. I love the King's Landing getting sprinkled on setting. I love the mood that it sets. But if we're gonna do our own thing, that's one of the cool parts about doing your own. It's one of the cool things about having a book that is in such cool pieces that you can move around to then make your own thing out of. To do, like I said, to be able to make your own season finale, basically, put the scenes order in a way that you feel emotionally resonates to you the best way. For example, someone in the audience might want to put the John getting stabbed at the very end as a way to end this whole series. That would make total sense.
Stop traumatizing Shelley, you guys. Oh my god.
What else?
Well, I wanted to ask you guys about why you put the characters in the order that you put, and kind of talk about some of those decisions.
Some of them feel like no-brainers, just for thematics. We just finished up with Sam. We're starting a new POV week after next. And if you heard the most recent episode, you might know it came out this Friday, so you might not have, you're all here. We've had a good time this weekend, I think, so far. So I don't think you have time for Girls Gone Canon in your life, but maybe one day on the ride home, give it a download. But our next POV, Speak the Devil, is prologues, all of them.
Holy, did you just drop that right now?
That is the news, so we are doing all of the prologues. Yes. And I can only merely wink, nudge at whatever's after the prologues and starting back and going to the very beginning and what the core of the story is. But I did just ask someone to be a guest on the next POV about 30 minutes ago before this panel. So we're in motion, because prologues is going to be kind of a quick jaunt. It's going to be fast. It's going to be a month-long shebang, and then we're moving on. And we did that after Sam, because I feel like Sam, with the magic in Sam 5 especially, that's you're getting to the mystery of the story and some of the greater, higher mysteries in A Song of Ice and Fire, how magic works and how magic systems work. And I felt like that with prologues was such a great match. Before Sam, we did Brienne. And Sam and Brienne have arguably the strongest peace arcs. Sam and Brienne both put aside their own kind of, traumas and issues in their life and choose others ahead of themselves selflessly, and are so brave, right? They find bravery in the bleakest, saddest, and miserable parts of the book, and they find a way to be kind of heroes, even when all odds are against them in one way or another, whether it's societal odds. They both go through so much, right, with kind of just gender and some of the odds against them in their society, and I thought that was perfect. That's one of my favorite, just going between the two. It just feels like the same nice, neat arc, right? But to be fair, Gilly's in one of those POVs, so that's the real MVP. I want the Gilly POVs, honestly. I think my other favorite recently we've done was Catelyn and Davos. We did Davos and then moved to Cat, and you wouldn't normally put the two together, but we chose that based on a lot of the water thematics, right? Davos always being on the water, and Cat being a Tully, returning to the life water. And location-wise, Davos isn't really in the Riverlands, and you get that great view of the Riverlands, but then you get Davos all on the water, going from south to north. And of course, that they've lost all their children, right? Trying to survive in the current state of the kingdom, the War of the Five Kings, and they sacrificed and lost their family just to kind of look for justice. So, I don't know, a lot of those themes we choose kind of on, some of it is vibes. Some of it's absolutely vibes. Ned was our first POV because we were like, how else do you start? A, B, he's a one-off, one and done. Dad's dead, let's go. That's easy, then we can get on. I also feel like we can get on with the story after Ned, because Ned brings the story. That's your camera into the past. And that's why he's killed so fast, because you don't get to know those mysteries in A Song of Ice and Fire that easy. George wants you to read 7 books, or maybe 12, or 17, we don't know how many books, but he wants you to read the books and figure it out, and he wants to unravel it for you in a meaningful, great way. So Ned is the first one. We've argued to each other, Eliana and I have, like, should we have, if we did it again, would that be our first? But I think he's the perfect
That's so
person.
good.
It makes a
Yeah.
lot of sense.
Yeah, it seems like God or the universe, like having a greater intelligent design, has to be real. When like what you just described is how it worked out for you. Like that we can get the foundational groundwork and then boom, like we take a whole new POV. Like how long it took you to get through that? Like 2 months.
I think originally we had planned to do 8 chapters. We used to do 2 chapters per episode once in a while,
Yeah,
and sometimes we do the one-offs. That changed. We're doing it real nice and slow, you know, like molasses. We got time. We got time to fill. We got air to fill. We can do a solid 2.5 hours on a short chapter. What else are we gonna do? Not a 4-part Davos or a prologue chapter yet. We're not quite at some of our successors of our very brilliant friends over at the Nauticast, but we haven't dragged it out yet. Eliana gets on me sometimes, and I have to get on her, but. I don't know, we have slowed it down, we're doing one at a time, we were doing 2, and some of these chapters, I actually take like the shorter, simpler chapters, that's a break. That's a week where we're like, let's dig into this fun chapter, get it done, it's shorter, we can talk about a lot of it because of that, and the thick boys, we just know we'll have to settle in a little longer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have all of the characters already mapped out from moment 1, or have you been just going from
Moment
tick to
1,
tick?
we did not record an episode of this until we had the POV order, and we told each other we would not change it. We said, this is it, this is our choice, we have made our choice.
And you have regrets?
I don't know if I have regrets. I think that we had a really good run. There are some in the end, actually. We're on like the last 10. Oh my god, we're on the last 10. I actually mapped it out, and if there's no new book, we will probably finish all of it by 2025, end of 2025.
Well,
Yeah.
you can't get out.
I don't know if you guys can hear me.
I'm saying.
Yeah. Do you feel like you ever like lose the overall narrative when you're going POV to POV? Like, what's that experience like?
So how we fix that is a really fun thing called a lightning round. Everyone who knows what a lightning round listens to Girls Gone Canon. A lightning round is when Eliana doesn't read this, and I actually take the chapters in between the last chapter, so like all the chapters between Sam 4 and Sam 5, and I put a snippet in there of just a quick description. It could be serious, or it could be like, you know, Jon Snow's sad today. You know, it just depends on the chapter. Sometimes they're very funny. Eliana likes not reading them because of that. Like, Eliana's like, I won't read these before because I like to be surprised in the moment, and then she likes to complain in the moment. Like, what are you making me read?
That is what happened like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, you were there,
Literally
and you
what
were there,
happened.
and you were there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that woman drives me wild. But those are really easy to just remind you, like, hey, that's that chapter where Cersei does that shit. You know, keep kind of in context. And then how we go through just scene by scene, talking about the chapter and describing some of the scenes and a couple quotes. We're like quotes, we're cheesy, we don't care. We got a couple voices, we like voices. I don't know if y'all like voices, but we like voices, we don't want it.
Worth the trip.
Yeah, we like voices, we like all that, but sometimes we get a little like on the free sound websites, get that Creative Commons, we're like, yeah, some nice, you know, Maester Aemon's doing a speech, let's put some nice ambiance behind it, really get into it. Yeah, I love that. We just talk about, you know, parallels though to other chapters. I always, when I'm writing, I try to read at least the couple chapters before and after whatever chapter I'm reading. Yeah, just to kind of refresh me on where this chapter is in the book, how the other chapters are behaving, and it's kind of easy because I'm like, oh shoot, that happens in Sam, but in this way, or this, so that it almost grounds me, it anchors you to be like, okay, I know what I'm reading, I know what I'm about.
Yeah, the more you expose yourself to, the better you're gonna be too. Because you
Yeah.
have way more to recall in the moment whenever you're trying to like make sense of what you're saying.
Yeah.
Or, like be able to like actually probably explain your thoughts, like the more context you have in that scenario, it's gonna be really helpful.
Because sometimes it's just like, it's a good chapter, but sometimes you're like, I don't have any groundbreaking great Greek tragedy to reference. It's just like, you know, so-and-so did this was a good chapter, and that's fine. It doesn't all have to be, it's not that deep, you know, it doesn't have to be that deep.
Right.
But sometimes then you're sitting there and you're like, wow, we had a chapter that should have taken us 20 minutes, and we unearthed 800 things.
Like an existential crisis. along the way.
Yeah, you know, you've been there. Yeah, it is fun. Like, we come up sometimes, like, Eliana gets in trouble because sometimes she just says things and she's like, I have to be scripted. I'm not allowed to speak anymore. You gotta take me out of there. So she likes to write a lot of her thoughts down. Sometimes we're off the cuff and we come up with brilliant crap and we're like, wow, how did you think of this? Our minds, we're so smart. Like, during Davos chapters, something that I'm really interested in. And if you come tomorrow to this room at 1 p.m., I'm doing a panel with Pork Quinton from Nauticast, if you know him. And anyway, and that one guy that I live with. And we're doing a panel tomorrow. We're going to talk about T-Wow and A Dream of Spring and some of these great kind of just thoughts of what's to come someday and what we're going to read about and what we think might happen, some of the little things about them, just place by place, people by people. And Davos, we've been really into Fire and Blood, as you guys have lately. That's your biggest endeavor. You guys have undertaken doing a Fire and Blood read-through, which is, you gotta download them for the ride home. You gotta.
The reading order that is published.
Yeah, they're just going A to Z.
That's kind of boring. No, it's not boring, but
It's already
it's a normal reading order.
Yeah, if it wasn't chronological, you could maybe like do so. It's not.
You should do it.
You
You
could
could do like good
Okay,
Targaryens
no.
to back, Targaryens
Yeah.
back to back.
Let's do that.
You have to flip some points for that one.
You're right.
You know, in Fire and Blood, there's something that I thought of. You know, you got the Aegon and Viserys coming home, right? The brothers finally being reunited.
Which
and
brothers being reunited?
Pick a Targaryen.
Honestly, Jesus
God. Having them come back together after being apart, right? And Davos is in a position with Rickon to do something similar, right? That he could maybe go get Rickon and bring him home. And there's just these little things that we've kind of like picked out as we read through, especially Fire and Blood. Fire and Blood has been great. It's just a sandbox, right? It's just like George has a little sandbox. He's making little sandcastles that look like the sandcastles he's already written, which are fun. I love it. He's having a blast. Like, that shows in that book. He's having fun, and I'm happy for him. When you add Fire and Blood in the mix, it just starts to get even messier and more fun.
Dude, you're so right about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
You guys just got to Jaehaerys and Alysanne. What? You just got past Exceptionalism?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is, I mean, I know this isn't a Fire and Blood panel, but like,
Could be.
it could be. It's what it is right here. Is it? Oh, yeah.
Not deep.
Yeah, we're doing a hot panel.
Deep.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was really out of their character to do that. I was talking about that recently, but I just felt like they were so smooth and polished in general. And then all of a sudden they're like, by the way, this religious doctrine about us is totally true. That really makes sense, but I guess it checks out, right?
Yeah. I mean,
I'm
you
leaving
know,
more.
they're just better than everyone.
I guess.
That's what I've heard.
Doesn't really seem like they are.
Some of them are. Like, some of them are like perfect angels. And some are like, I'm like, you're perfect, and you're probably gonna die, and that's why you're perfect. But kills all the good ones.
Yeah, I really like. Yeah.
Well, tomorrow, you guys should argue with Zach. What time is that panel?
Oh, good question.
Noon tomorrow. Oh, right before
It's at
us.
1 o'clock in here.
One.
Start here at noon tomorrow, and then stick around for 1 p.m. You'll have fun.
Yeah.
Something I was thinking about, I can't really remember. It has something to do with reading order.
Okay.
I just think it's neat that, like I said before, we have the option to rearrange his story like this. I don't know if he likes it, because I know that he doesn't like fan fiction, and that's basically what we're doing right here. Also don't know if he likes that we like read one of his blog posts out loud.
Word
For word a couple weeks ago, like it was a chapter, like we were like analyzing his blog post like it was a chapter that he read. And he's a person
Yeah, he is
that
kind
like
of
sits in
person.
hotel rooms. you
I mean,
know?
that's the thing is like, I know George knows of some of the podcasts, et cetera, you know. He's got a great team of people that check up on that and tell him about stuff. He's got assistants, little minions that run around.
Yeah, but how good are they at what they do? Like, you know what I mean? Like, how much does he really know? I don't really
And
know.
is he hiring, Zach wants to know.
I'm not going to Santa Fe. See, the thing about Santa Fe is you think that it's going to be like an oasis of like great weather and good vibes, but in reality it gets cold there. It gets cold there, and I don't know why I want to be there. The airport's like 40 minutes away.
If you're gonna go west, you gotta, you know, go warm.
Yeah. What? Oh yeah, I'm literally going there in a week.
It's nice.
Anyway,
That's great.
I don't know. I don't think that I think this is different, right? Because it's not like you're literally cutting a book. Unless you did, I mean, and I don't want to talk about it if you did out here, because isn't that like
No.
not good, but
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, I
We're
guess.
not making a profit off of it.
Oh, that's true. But we're all, cutting a book would be some shit, and like doing the PDF file would be some shit. Like people have asked us for that. It feels like that you're literally pirating someone's work in that case.
Yes.
Also, I think if someone were to open source an audiobook and put it together with Feast of Dragons reading order, that would be awesome as well. And you know, those things are modular, especially like if it was like an audiobook, because you could like just move the files around. I guess you can do the same with a PDF or EPUB or something if it was just text, but I think it's a little harder to work with something like that. But either way, like we can't officially provide that to people, even though we'd really like to. It's like here's the list on the website, and you kind of have to do the rest of it yourself.
That's the thing, like it's not like illegal to read a book differently.
No, it's not.
So like I don't, there's no, it's not even
yet.
unethical. Like,
Not
Yeah, not yet. no.
Not yet.
Yeah.
You know, if we can hold out. I mean, it's like, okay, like think about for research, right, for projects, like you open a book and read specific chapter that is specifically for your research and for your purposes of what you're trying to accomplish. I mean, it's just reading differently, which, I mean, I think that's actually an excellent way to kind of upend it, because especially when you have this dense story that everybody has opinions on, right? Everyone has opinions,
Right.
and they're all different about this story. If you, I mean, undoing it like that just gives you kind of more depth and
Yeah.
detail and helps you have a richer understanding.
I would love it if I was the author. I'd be like, people like it this much that they're like getting their own thing out of it, not just in like a conventional sense, but like something that is not really a popular thing to do yet.
I mean, truth be told, Zach, and I don't mean this to be dismissive, I just don't think George thinks about our reading orders.
you're
I
right.
think he's a little busy
No,
I think
totally.
it keeps them up at night.
with Dark Winds and
You're probably
Wild
right.
Cards.
He's too busy listening to all of our different
And
podcasts.
writing
to
for all the
write.
TV shows he's writing for. And, oh, The Winds of Winter. And
He didn't do anything on Elden Ring though, guys. You know what I mean? Like it's like he wrote a bunch of stuff for Elden Ring. You go, let's talk about Elden Ring. It's Hannah's favorite
Yeah.
video game. So it's not like it took that much time.
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
He was like, there's a tree. There's a tree over here.
I did want to ask the audience though, your guys' opinions on reading orders. If you've done either of our reading orders, how you feel about them, if you've done other reading orders, like what's kind of the vibe that you guys, what experience have you had?
I have never done another reading order, not in any kind of planned way. Like I definitely will go back and listen to a chapter here, a chapter there, or a few chapters and jump around, like very much, but not anything like this. I wasn't familiar with this. But with Feast and Dance, especially, I know a lot of the issue for a lot of us the first time we read Dance with Dragons was some of the stuff seemed to like come out of nowhere, or why is this right at the end? But I'm guessing, you know, if you put it together in a different way, that might have been a very different experience reading it like
Yeah,
that.
there's a lot more context for sure. And also the drag of going through the Riverlands, and also the drag of traveling east through Essos disappears a lot easier when you put the two books together, more specifically. because-
Sorry, there's a drag when you look at the
There's a drag.
Riverlands?
There's a
Are we
drag.
reading the same
Yeah.
book? I
Yeah.
love it.
I'm
Yeah,
looking
I
for
love
a
it.
maid of 3 and 10. It's just like.
As someone who just read those chapters, I disagree. In a row, there was no drag. Every single chapter was beautiful. Every single chapter had.
3P.
Oh, did you recently read them in a row? Yeah. Would you like to? Would you like to prove your point more?
I think you guys should fight right here.
Well, I'm already. I'm a little.
Trial by combat.
I'm a little heated. I will trial by combat your ass right now, no, I actually used to think it was kind of slow and boring, but reading it all at once actually paints a much clearer arc for what Brienne's going through, where she's going. The characters that show up are all characters.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, reading Jamie and Brienne, we did. When did we do?
That's a good reading order.
Where is that guy? Who was he? We did Jamie after John. We did Theon, John, Jamie, Aerys, Aeryo, then Asha, and we got to Davos and Kat and Brienne. And so, yeah, if you want to peek, don't tell anyone, or, you know, make money if you do tell people. I
Just
mean,
read it
God,
out
at least
loud right
exploit
now,
me.
the bottom part.
I can tell you there are 8 people that would be killing in this crowd to get this list right here that Hannah's
The
reading
last 10.
right now. She sees all of it. She knows what's coming. She knows the last
I don't
one.
think you're gonna let me look at it.
Yeah, I'll let you do it. I love you, Hannah.
That was a
Brienne,
hard
though,
fight.
was like, especially reading Brienne and then having read the Jamie stuff, it's the answer to the Jamie, you know, and her traveling and Storm together. That's like the answer to the Storm traveling, like watching, like, okay, they're off, you get Feast, it unbreaks all of it, and it answers each other. And her going through the Riverlands and like seeing the destruction, seeing those characters from her past come back like the brave companions. That arc is actually insane, and her being fooled by a fool herself into going there, and Nimble Dick, like all of these things are making like the stuff that she's going through is going to turn her into the character she is in The Winds of Winter and A Dream of Spring, and what she chooses to do and how she chooses to defend and protect people, whether it's in Winterfell, whether it's in King's Landing. I don't know, reading them together was not a travelogue for me, that was not boring.
Well, I think it's definitely not bad, because George is good at writing and the books are good, for sure. But I do think that the books are so big and that people read in such different ways. Like, not everyone's like reading it for like a very specific purpose like
Or
that.
with their friends.
Exactly.
We have such a benefit. 'Cause
Yeah,
it's
that's
like,
true.
you get to talk about it out loud. I feel like I enjoy so many things I didn't enjoy as much
Mhm.
because you're like talking about it with your BFF, you know, and so
Yeah.
like stuff comes up instead of, you know, like before bed, like trying to get through.
You know, like, how long is it gonna take for me to get to Bran, or how long until I get to like Tyrion? Like, he's not even. It's tough in 4 and 5 because it leaves characters out that you might like. So it's like, okay, so
Where's Sansa?
you're right. And so for some people, but literally, where is she? We're trying to find her. For some people, when you get to like when you're going to the Whispers, it's like, can we just get up this fucking hill already? Like, can we get to the Whispers? And what are they whispering? What are they saying?
Zach, you just gotta enjoy the ride, buddy. You just gotta enjoy the ride with Brienne.
Listen, I've been working on that, and I totally agree. And stroking in the ride feels so good. But it is also fun to make it better. Exactly, to do it better, and to do it exactly like the way that, or the highway, do it the way that you want to do it. Speaking of better, we really do need to update the reading order, though. I think moving Brand up would be cool, but making people wait for Brand.
You know, we
might
should
that
do a
too.
workshop where we make our own reading order like that.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking originally for today, and I just didn't have the resources in time. I would have loved to do, like, actually move it around on a board and choose.
ISOFireCon 2023.
2023.
Everybody do some
Yeah.
like reading and thinking. We'll come together, we'll get like a whiteboard and we'll make our own.
We'll like do magnets on the
Yeah.
chapters,
Yeah.
move them around. I've had thoughts, yeah, I've had some thoughts.
Everyone prepare for that.
I have a question, and she has a question, so let's get with her first.
I was wondering if you have a recommendation for what print is acceptable for reading in a different, other choice.
What's the question exactly? Like,
Because when
Yeah,
my
I agree, you'll have to
first
place mine,
copies
like,
are
hardcover.
not very conducive to reading.
It was great.
Okay.
They
Yeah.
have numbers,
Anyway,
they,
Dr. Hans,
know.
like-
yeah, they actually, I don't think any of them do. Basically, you have to like just give it on your own. That's what we do.
I will say,
Yeah, bookmark it. And say like, this is the first brand, this is the second brand.
The PDFs are much easier.
Yeah, I was gonna say-
PDFs are much easier to bounce. So I have like them on like my Kindle. It's so much easier to bounce. Like
I'm an e-reader myself.
when we first did the order, I was trying to read them like the physical copies, bounce back and forth. It was
And then
just
like 5 years later, I'll be like, sure.
And I will say, if you go on
You got
Google,
great books we do.
yeah, if you go on Google and you type a book title that may or may not be in the series, and you type PDF, you will find PDFs of the book for quick reference. The plot thickens, and it's very easy to use the search tool and go up and down, or to get to the table of contents and click through it and really count, okay, this is the third brand of that one. I love physical reading, but I also am always on the go, so I love e-reading too. I have it on, I have the books physical and on e-reader and on PDF. I've got enough, and they're here, and I'm never gonna stop thinking about them. So I have different resources I use just for that. Like it's kind of an advanced choice if you want to do it, but if you love the series, and I think we've all felt kind of a little bit of a drought because there's no content, and hot D is exciting, right? Like we're excited for the hottest of Ds,
Yeah,
but
very hot.
I mean I'm starving. We're starving, so
Starving
we'll
for some hot tea
yeah,
right
give
now.
us some hot D, George.
Please.
But with that in mind, like that drought's fun, painful, and I think it kind of can make people not want to read ASOIAF or better take a break, which is good. You should read lots of other books. Like it helps the weight, right? You can read other books too. But it's a good way to refresh your love for the books, right? It's a good way for you to kind of be able to look at it and say, oh my God, this chapter of Sam after Brienne, this is why I love this story. I think that's helpful.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
It does.
And I want to go through it like you guys are doing it because I just think that like I don't know, I want to say it's like more, it seems more fun to me than even like going from person to person, because they're like, it's like you're reading like, how many characters, like what's the total? It's like you're reading like 20 different books, basically.
We have it broken out into 26 POVs. The initial, I had a certain like guesstimation. I have a sheet that shows like, this is my guess of how many episodes per character we're gonna do. None of it's right. I never went back and changed that. That's changed. That's out the door. Yeah, there's a lot of long ones in the future for us. We haven't done some of the big ones, right? We haven't done, actually, the longest POVs left we haven't done, right? Because we did Cat and Arya. Or no, we didn't do Arya. Oh my God. Wow, that's blasphemous. Yeah, we have a fan, Warren, who would be so mad right now that I said we did Arya. He'd be like, you've been holding him away from me. We haven't done that. Haven't done like what, Cersei or Dany or Tyrion yet. So we have a long life ahead of us. We have a very long life. Yeah, very long life. I don't know.
We're in the middle of the whole series being released. Like we haven't even gotten book six yet. So like ours is a living document. I consider it to be a living document, and hopefully we can update it and make it make more sense later.
Do you guys think you're gonna make like a TWOW reading, a different reading order?
Not for
at all?
TWOW, no. But
Maybe at the end.
If he does the same with the last two books, then I feel like we have
That
to.
would be so, if he does the same thing. I think he's.
We'd all just
Rage quit.
There's no way he can do it because
Done.
there's already not enough time to get it all done in 2 books if we put every character in each of those 2
It's
books.
also a very silly way to publish a book, you know?
It was fun though, it was creative.
I feel like he's
It was
avoiding it
serious.
at all costs, though. Like, I don't think he wants that to happen again
Yeah,
after what happened.
yeah.
Because there was a lot of backlash at the time.
Yeah.
For sure. Like, you imagine having to wait it is ridiculous, but imagine having to wait that long.
I know.
Like,
Well, it's disappointing because, like, he obviously did intend it to hit differently, right? So, like, obviously time and, you know, it messed it up, but he did hope to publish it in a different intended way. So, I don't know. I don't think that he's gonna split the next. I don't.
This is Eliana.
Oh my God. Hello,
Let
Eliana.
her close us out.
Eliana's here. Everyone say hey, Eliana. She's here. Hello. How you feeling? I love you.
Guys, I guess we're gonna let them talk. One more question from the crowd.
We're finishing up.
Alan, Black Alan, Tyler Alan.
So, given that a lot of the story is told by characters who aren't necessarily the POV, like, for example, in Game of Thrones, we hear from Ned that they're sending an assassin after Daenerys, and then we see the assassin, or like Brienne versus Cersei, like you see a lot of Brienne story from Cersei, vice versa, yada yada yada. How does that affect putting your reading order in if it's not your POV? Like if you're gonna do like Dany's story, right? You have to have a Ned chapter in there because he tells part of her story, and so many people are involved, even if it's not necessarily the person who is in our head.
We contextualize that a lot, how we read the books, I would say. So the question was, how do you kind of contextualize someone like Dany, for example, who has so much of her plots scattered throughout other plots, like Ned. We contextualize that. Even when we start a POV, we do not just a little lightning round on how to get through the chapters later, we also do a lightning round on the character at the intro. We do an intro and outro for each character to explain where they've been, what we're missing, you know, in their story. And yeah, we try to contextualize that, and we get as many details as we can. We're only human, unfortunately, for now, until we evolve. There are some things I do feel that we miss. Like, obviously, we have not yet gotten to Daenerys. Never know, it can happen any moment, you guys. I know it's a burning thing. It can happen any day. Eliana's giving me a really big look right now on this phone. I'm in big trouble. Zach, you gotta take this. I gotta go. Oh, God. Oh, man, I'm getting divorced. But yeah, there is stuff that we might have to look at more. The intro episodes especially. The intro episodes especially are like the big ones because that gives those details. We try to really cover that. We lost Eliana. Yeah.
This is really fun.
Yeah.
This is fun. I feel like too many things we have already said. Yeah. Hope you guys have a good rest of your afternoon.
Yeah.
See you at the Manimal Show tonight.
Yeah.
Peace.